What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about taming gachas. These gachas, these sloth panda looking mutated things, these guys came out on Extinction. They got some cool abilities and they're fun to tame and they're absolutely adorable. So let's talk about them. I'm in this little basket. We should talk about that first. Once you tame these guys, the saddle for them is actually kind of a basket that hangs around their neck. So I'm just kind of sitting in here, which is a little, I'll be honest, it's a little uncomfortable. Maybe if I had a blanket, pillows, maybe something. Anyway, so the gachas usually found in cave networks, the sort of aberration-y looking. In Extinction, you're going to find them in this underground aberration style areas. Other maps where you have those sort of mods added to be maybe add the gachas in, you're typically going to find them in areas like this. But this is pretty much what you're looking for, is areas like this. This is where you're going to find the gachas. So there isn't usually Ark has an event going around, usually during Christmas time, where they have the gacha claws that'll be roaming around here and there. But typically, this is what we're looking at, is the gacha. So let me hop out of this guy so you can see a look about what he looks like. They're pretty obvious. They hang around. They're pretty solitary creatures. You're usually just going to find one just hanging around by himself, just doing his thing, or her thing. So just from a utility standpoint, these guys will harvest just a crazy amount of resources for you. Stone, flint, wood, thatch, meat, metal, fiber. Like, they harvest so much stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff that these guys don't harvest. And you predominantly see them, like I said, just hanging around down here. They have a lot of cool special abilities, and it is a little wonky at first trying to finagle exactly how they work. But we're just talking about the resource gathering for right now. So to gather all of this stuff, stone, metal, all that stuff, you have a right-click attack, which is kind of like a smash, and then you have the left-click, which is more of a swipe attack. It appears, let me turn my HUD back on, it might kind of help. So the smash gives me a little bit of stone. Let me see what the flash does against this. Alright, so definitely, it's about the same regardless. I think it's just area of effect, really. This gives me like a wider area, where the smash just kind of directly, definitely the swipe is a little bit slower, but it's more of an AoE is what you're looking at here. These guys aren't really known for doing a whole lot of damage and fighting off things. I mean, I'm sure you could probably breed them to do that. They're kind of tanky, but they have awesome abilities. So in the wild, you're going to see these guys, and they'll have these little crystals. If you can see, I'm going to get back up here. You'll see these crystals starting to form on their backs. Those crystals will drop off and fall on the ground, and you can pick them up and get resources out of them, which is pretty cool. I can just pick them up, pop into my inventory. I can see one, I hit consume, and it has resources. Just random resources. What are you doing here? Calm down. Calm down. We're trying to shoot a video. Don't be doing all this. Anywho, that's basically the niche of these guys. They'll produce resources for you. Now, depending on the type of gacha you have, once they're tamed, they'll be able to create certain resources for you. And they'll also be able to drop various items as well. The crystals will have a like a quality meter, much like your normal stuff, like your drops do, to be able to tell you, what the quality of stuff is going to be. But you can get all sorts of weapons and equipment and structures from doing it. And these guys will eat everything. Once you have one tamed, and we're going to talk about taming them, you'll have a production tab here, and it will actually tell you what all of the stuff that this one can passively produce out of those crystals. Now, you can set this to any, so it's random. Every time it drops a crystal, you're going to get randoms of any one of these. Or you can set it to one of these specifically so that it only makes that certain thing when it makes resource gacha crystals, and that's it. It's a pretty easy thing, and there's a huge long list about what these guys could potentially be giving you. So as it stands right now, you have kind of like a common, uncommon, rare, very rare sort of thing that they'll actually be able to make for you. They could potentially spit out things like fiber, flint, gems, salts, stone, thatch, things like that. Even congealed gas balls, crystal oil, silica pearls. But he can even do, like this one actually has the black pearls associated with it. This one can actually make black pearls, and you see congealed gas balls and raw salt. There's actually a very rare version. Very rare. It's hard to find. But will actually produce element dust. Element dust will be one of these options. It's pretty wild. Other cool thing about these things to note is obviously you can breed them. They are male and female. And what let's say, for instance, just for sake of argument, it's probably the easiest way to explain this. Let's say that the female here has all of these productions, right? Now let's say the male has, let's say we tame a male and it has the exact same productions, right? We breed the male and the female. It is not these productions are not guaranteed when you breed them. They're going to be random. They might be some of the same ones, but predominantly they're going to be many and varied. So If you get 2 high-level gachas and you're like, man, I really wanted to get that element dust gacha, just keep breeding them. Just keep breeding them. Eventually, keep taming the ones out in the wild, or just keep breeding them. That's your best option. And that way you might actually potentially get one of those that makes that element dust. These guys are super cool. They're not fast. They're not fast, and like I said, they're not incredibly, not something you necessarily want to fight with. Their melee damage isn't that great, but their health is actually pretty decently high, so they're kind of tanky. They can definitely take a punch, and as you can see, they get a weight reduction on a lot of different things. So they get a 50% weight reduction on raw metal, stone, wood, and fungal wood. So 50% weight reduction on all of that. Plus, with the ability to harvest it, makes it pretty good as far as all around harvesting, creating resources dino for you. Well, not so much as dino, but a creature. These guys do quite a lot of different things. So we're going to talk about taming them, as well as some other little tips and tricks with these guys, and we're going to jump right into that. So I'm actually going to take some of this stuff out of your inventory, and we're just going to run up to one of these other gachas. You stay there. You're a female. Okay. What are you? Are you a male? You're a female. I'm hoping this is a male over here. This actually matters, and I'll explain why after we get it tamed. Yep, you're both females. All right, well, it doesn't matter. We're just picking one of you two because you're close. So basically, these guys, they'll eat anything. They'll eat anything you throw, anything you throw on the ground, they will eat. So if I just start dropping this stuff, they'll eventually grab it, and the taming bar will go up. Now, there's arguments. There's definitely plenty of different ways about what people say what you should feed these things and what you shouldn't feed these things. Stone structures, like spamming stone structures, is a pretty good one. But essentially, the higher grade the structure that you can just drop anything on the ground. Stone walls, metal walls, guns, equipment. These things will pick up and eat everything. They're like a giant trash compactor. They're absolutely hilarious. The fact that they do all this. But anywho, I mean, if you're not sure, if you're shy on resources and shy on, high-end resources, you can just throw down literally anything. As you can see, this girl is she's chewing through all this stuff, all of it. So it's not going to take that long to tame this thing, and that's pretty much what you do. You just throw all this stuff on the ground, and they will just grab it. And like I said, they'll grab and eat anything that you can toss on the ground. They will grab and devour anything. So be careful when you have one of these tamed, because they'll do the same thing when they're tamed. And if they're at your base and you're just dropping something on the ground by accident or trying to give it to a tribe main, don't do it near these, because they'll pick them up and eat them, and you'll never get it back. While this girl is taming, one thing to talk about, these guys, these gachas work really well with snow owls, by the way. If you have snow owls and gachas, they work hand in hand. So one way of getting the quality of things that they produce and more of the things that they produce higher is to actually level up their crafting skill. It'll increase the amount of things they give you, and it'll also increase the quality of things they give you. So basically, weight and crafting skill, if you're going to use these guys to just passively produce stuff for you, is probably the 2 best stats to level up on here. But snow owls, they'll actually eat the snow owl pellets, and if they eat the snow owl pellets, it'll give them a buff for a certain amount of time. You'll actually see like a little swirling colors around their gems and stuff like that. They'll actually get a buff to that. So having snow owls nearby these is actually really, really, really helpful. Basically, if they're in your base, it's a very simple thing. You could literally park a snow owl right in front of this guy, and as soon as the snow owl drops the pellet down, the gacha will grab it and immediately consume it, and they'll have that buff. So they work really well in tandem. But again, upgrading the crafting skill is definitely another thing to do if you don't have access to snow owls, or if you just don't have them yet. Alright, she is tamed. So I'm going to stop this from moving around. Mainly, I want to show you guys one thing that you definitely want to pay attention. Well, there's quite a few things you want to pay attention to with gachas, but the thing we're going to talk about, it actually kind of works out because these are both females. So gachas, like I said, are predominantly solitary creatures, or just pairs, male and female normally. You don't want to stack a bunch of these side by side. I think that was kind of Ark's way of saying, we're not going to let you have a million of these things in your base producing resources for you. But if I walk up to one of these right now, she turns her head to the side. And what happens when this is going on means that they're not going to produce gens for you, and they're not going to eat stuff off the ground. They don't like it. It's weird. It's like I don't know. It almost feels like they did something wrong and they're ashamed about it. Like, I feel like they're being scolded, and that's what's going on. It's a little weird. Anyhow, you can have these two close to each other if they're a male and a female, if they're a mating pair. Any other additional gachas need to be at least 12 foundations away from them. If any of them are in range, they're all going to be sad. So the trick is to keep mating pairs close by, and then go, you know, 12 foundations out from this one all the way out, and then do another pair. Or the other way around, 12 foundations this way, another pair. So you can get kind of creative, and you can also you can go tall instead of wide too. So you could just do like a tower and things like that. So definitely requires a little bit more creativity when you're trying to make a farm for these guys, if you're trying to just get a lot of them and have them all passively producing stuff for you. But you definitely want to pay attention to that. If you walk up to them and they shift their head to the side, I don't know why she's not doing it actually. Kind of, oh, there she goes. Okay. Could just be because she's on this weird angle. Anywho, taming them, fairly simple. You throw stuff out, you give it to them, they eat it. Not too terribly complicated. All in all, the ability to passively produce resources for you is amazing. Like this one produced one earlier that was already this one produced one earlier that was already here. Like I said, all you got to do is just hit E and consume it, and it's going to give you that resource. And again, you have the different production lines. This one will actually create obsidian for you. What this, I mean, this is super helpful depending on the map you're in, just because it's going to be easy access to get certain resources. And as you get their crafting skill up and try to pump the right things into them to do this, they're going to level up. They're going to level up fast. They're going to give you a lot of resources. Now, one of the things that I would highly suggest doing is having these guys here, but then also making a huge farm of the plant species Y traps. And that's the plant species Y that we see on Scorched Earth. The reason why is because you can get those incredibly large stacks. They don't weigh quite as much, and the gachas will eat them, and they kind of be in like structures that they eat. So the better quality stuff you give them to eat, the more better quality stuff they're likely to give you in return. Plant Y traps work out fantastically. A lot of times I'll actually have the crop plots growing right next to these guys, and I'll just periodically harvest, throw them into the gacha, and they'll produce everything for me. These are probably one of the most useful creatures I've seen in Ark up to date. Mainly because of the ability to passively produce so many resources for you, and the ability to harvest so many things. And to be honest, most minor threats, it can probably take care of itself. Especially if you get something like an upgraded saddle on them. I think they're actually pretty good. And you can still do a mate boost of a male and female, so you can still go out and resource harvest, get your mate boost, have a decent armor rating, decent health, and still do a reasonable amount of damage. The ability to harvest metal, stone, wood, thatch, and things like that for you definitely cuts down on some things, harvesting fiber for you as well. And all in all, they can harvest all the basic resources that you may need, and they produce so much more. A few gachas in your house or in your base, or in your tribe will make your life considerably better. Anywho, guys, that is the gacha. That's the gacha. I gotcha. I got the gacha. Gotcha. So many jokes. So many possible jokes involving this guy. Again, really useful. Highly suggest trying to use them. And if you can get a hold of them, definitely get a hold of them. Super, super, super useful in the Ark universe. And plus, they're cool looking. Kind of just hang out, mind their own business. Low maintenance for sure. I was trying to think of a classy nickname for these guys, and I just can't figure it out. Not sure what I should call them. Something that just passively makes things for you. I thought about trash compactor. Trash compactors definitely work because they eat everything, but they also give you a lot of stuff too. Like Santa trash men? Trash Santas? Trash Santa. Trash Santa. Old Saint trash can. Something. I don't know. They give gifts and they eat everything. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.